Championships are where legends are made, and where logic goes on vacation. 1. The Super Bowl Gatorade Meltdown, 1995. In 1995, the San Francisco 49ers nearly started a civil war over, you guessed it, Gatorade color. The team had a sacred ritual: dump red Gatorade on the coach after a win. But one rookie, apparently colorblind or just chaotic, grabbed lemon lime instead. The splash turned Joe Montana into a sticky fluorescent crime scene. The head coach lost his temper, the cameras caught it, and the NFL learned that hydration could be a public relations hazard. To fix the scandal, Gatorade issued official team color buckets the next season, like it was nuclear-grade technology. It's still remembered as the moment when professional athletes realized that in sports, color coordination matters just as much as touchdowns. Nothing says team unity like fighting over juice. 2. The boxing match. That ended with a bite, 1997, Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield. A historic title match that turned into the world's most expensive dinner party. By the third round, Tyson had decided he was done losing, and done playing by basic human decency. So he took a bite out of Holyfield's ear like it was a mid-fight snack. The crowd lost its mind, the ref lost control, and the Nevada Athletic Commission lost its patience. Tyson was fined $3 million, banned from boxing temporarily, and permanently associated with breakfast buffets. The funniest part? Holyfield forgave him. Not because it was noble, but because he made more money selling Holyfield's ear merchandise than from the fight itself. Turns out, forgiveness is a lot easier when it comes with royalties. 3. The NASCAR Phantom Caution, 2004. At the 2004 Nextel Cup Championship, NASCAR officials proved that physics and favoritism can coexist. Late in the race, a minor piece of debris, which no one could actually see, magically appeared on the track. The officials called a phantom caution, halting the race and reshuffling the field. Fans at home replayed the footage like it was the Zapruder film, frame by frame, and found nothing. Not a can, not a bolt, not even a confused pigeon. The debris was as real as Bigfoot's driver's license. The decision changed the outcome of the race, the championship standings, and NASCAR's reputation for months. It's still remembered as the moment when a sport built on horsepower was derailed by imaginary trash. Because sometimes the dumbest hazard isn't on the track, it's in the rulebook. 4. The soccer celebration that injured the scorer, 2001. In 2001, during an English Premier League match, Leeds United striker Lee Bowyer scored a stunning goal, the kind commentators call pure magic. Unfortunately, his celebration turned out to be pure stupidity. He sprinted toward the corner flag, leaped into the air, and attempted a dramatic knee slide across the wet grass, only to misjudge the angle. His leg twisted, his face met the turf, and he tore his own hamstring mid-celebration. He was carried off the field, not for a tackle, not for a foul, but for injuring himself while congratulating himself. The opposing team didn't even celebrate the mistake. They just stood there, stunned, watching evolution in reverse. Afterward, Bowyer reportedly said, "It was worth it," which might be the most British sentence ever spoken by a man sitting on an ice pack. The team's medical report officially listed the cause of injury as post-goal enthusiasm. Imagine explaining that to your coach. "Boss, I can't play next week. I was just too happy." 5. The golf cart heist at the Ryder Cup, 1999. The 1999 Ryder Cup was already dramatic. Team USA versus Europe, high stakes, massive egos, and then someone decided it needed a little chaos. Late one night, a group of over-celebrated fans borrowed a fleet of official golf carts from the course's parking lot and joyrode them straight into a pond. Security discovered a trail of tire tracks, champagne bottles, and one half-submerged golf cart with a souvenir flag sticking out like a shipwreck marker. The best part? The thieves weren't random spectators. They were off-duty caddies. Their punishment? A lifetime ban from the event, and probably a killer story at every pub for the rest of their lives. It was the perfect example of how golf, the world's most polite sport, occasionally takes a hard left turn into NASCAR energy. Nothing screams class and composure like sinking a golf cart instead of a putt. 6. The figure skating Tonya Harding scandal, 1994. Figure skating. Graceful, elegant, pure. Until Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan turned it into an Olympic episode of Cops. In 1994, Harding's ex-husband hired a guy to literally take out her biggest rival by attacking Kerrigan with a metal baton before the US Championships. The scene became infamous. Kerrigan crying, "Why? Why?" while TV cameras rolled. The FBI got involved, Harding got banned for life, and the incident turned skating from a sport into a soap opera. Sponsors dropped her faster than a triple axel, and Kerrigan became an American sympathy icon overnight. The event was so ridiculous it inspired documentaries, movies, and late-night punchlines for decades. It's the only time in Olympic history where off-ice strategy involved actual assault. Moral of the story? If your game plan includes blunt objects, maybe you're not really competing in figure skating. You're auditioning for prison. 7. The championship parade that destroyed the town, 2008. When the Boston Celtics won the 2008 NBA Finals, the city threw a victory parade so massive it made history, and several citywide repair bills. Over 1 million fans flooded the streets, climbing streetlights, jumping into fountains, and hanging from traffic lights like confetti-covered spider monkeys. Someone even commandeered a duck boat, drove it straight into a crowd, and declared himself the backup MVP. The damage? Broken lights, overturned trash trucks, cracked sidewalks, and one very traumatized statue of Paul Revere. City officials later admitted they underestimated the enthusiasm of drunk champions. The cleanup took longer than the playoffs. To this day, Boston officials issue warnings before every title parade. Please celebrate responsibly and avoid climbing city property, which is civic speak for "don't ride the Dunkin' Donuts sign again." It was the perfect ending to a championship, pure joy, pure chaos, and proof that nothing unites a city like collectively breaking it. 8. The World Cup trophy that got stolen. Twice, 1966. In 1966, England hosted the FIFA World Cup, the biggest sporting event on Earth. You'd think the prize trophy, made of solid gold, would have been locked in a vault guarded by MI6. Nope, it was left in a public display case at a stamp exhibition. Naturally, someone stole it. The nation went into panic mode until, days later, a random dog named Pickles found the trophy wrapped in newspaper under a bush. Pickles became an instant celebrity, complete with TV appearances and a lifetime supply of kibble, while the police received zero credit. You'd think FIFA learned their lesson. They didn't. In 1983, the same trophy was stolen again from Brazil's football headquarters, this time melted down for its gold. To this day, nobody knows where the original ended up. The moral? You can organize the world's most prestigious sporting event, but you still can't organize basic security. Somewhere out there, a burglar is watching the World Cup every 4 years thinking, "Yeah, I had that once." 9. The Olympic Marathon. That turned into a comedy sketch, 1904. The 1904 Olympic Marathon in St. Louis was less of a race and more of a medical emergency parade. The temperature hit 90 Mydorov, the route was dusty, and only one water station existed, because officials wanted to test the effects of dehydration. Within miles, runners were collapsing like extras in a war movie. One guy hitched a ride in a car for 11 miles, got caught, and still tried to claim he'd won. Another accidentally inhaled too much dust and nearly suffocated. The actual winner, Thomas Hicks, had to be carried across the finish line hallucinating after his trainers fed him a performance drink made of egg whites, brandy, and strychnine. Yes, rat poison. The scene was so absurd that officials almost canceled future marathons altogether. It wasn't athletic glory. It was a 3-hour medical experiment with medals. To this day, it stands as the dumbest organized race in history, proof that sometimes endurance events just test your will to survive the organizers. 10. The baseball game. That ended in disco hell, 1979. In 1979, the Chicago White Sox hosted Disco Demolition Night, a promotional event where fans could bring disco records to destroy between games. It was supposed to be funny. Instead, it became the sporting equivalent of the apocalypse. Over 50,000 fans showed up, many drunk, many shirtless, all angry at disco music. When the pile of records exploded on the field, fans stormed the stadium, tore up the grass, set fires, and even stole bases as souvenirs. Police in riot gear had to clear the field, and the second game was officially canceled. The White Sox forfeited, and the night went down as one of baseball's greatest disasters. It turns out, giving thousands of drunk people explosives and permission to rage against disco is not a sound marketing strategy. The only winners were the news crews, who got footage so wild it looked like Woodstock with fewer morals and more polyester. 11. The NBA Finals Cramp Game, 2014. The 2014 NBA Finals between the Miami Heat and San Antonio Spurs gave us one of the strangest championship moments in modern sports. During Game 1, the air conditioning in the arena broke down in Texas, turning the court into a sauna. Temperatures soared past 90 degrees Celsius. Players were drenched, slipping, dehydrating mid-play. Then it happened. LeBron James cramped so badly he had to be carried off the court like a fallen war hero. Twitter exploded, fans accused him of faking, and commentators treated leg cramps like a national scandal. The Spurs went on to win, but the real takeaway was that a multi-billion-dollar sports league forgot to pay the AC bill. The NBA promised it would never happen again, which is corporate speak for "we bought a fan." It's remembered as the night when physics beat fitness, proof that no amount of training can save you from the thermostat of doom. 12. The Formula One race that forgot to end by 1998. In 1998, the Australian Grand Prix had one job: count to 58 laps. Simple, right? Except the race officials accidentally waved the checkered flag one lap early. The driver in first place, Mika Hakkinen, crossed the line on lap 57, saw the flag, and started celebrating, waving to fans, slowing down, practically planning dinner reservations. Meanwhile, the other racers kept going, confused but committed. When officials realized the mistake, chaos erupted. Some drivers had stopped, others didn't know what lap they were on, and TV commentators were frantically trying to do math on live air. The FIA had to review the footage frame by frame to determine the real finishing order. In the end, Hakkinen still won, mostly because everyone else was too bewildered to challenge it. It became known as the race that forgot when to stop. Moral of the story: if your sport relies on one guy waving a flag at the right time, maybe invest in a digital clock. 13. The NFL Power Outage Bowl, 2013. The 2013 Super Bowl was supposed to be a sleek, billion-dollar spectacle. Beyoncé, fireworks, flawless tech. And then, midway through the third quarter, the lights went out. A full 34 minutes of blackout inside the Superdome. The world's most powerful sporting event suddenly looked like a middle school talent show. Players stretched in the dark, fans used their phones as flashlights, and announcers were forced to improvise awkward commentary like, "Well, it's still football," kind of. When the lights finally came back, momentum had completely shifted. The 49ers mounted an epic comeback, leading conspiracy theorists to suggest the blackout was planned for drama. The NFL blamed a faulty power relay, but the memes wrote themselves. It was the only championship in history where halftime had an encore. For years after, stadium engineers across America got one new budget priority: backup generators. Because nothing kills the Super Bowl vibe like realizing your event just got beaten by a power bill. 14. The Horse That Won Without a Rider, 1923. In 1923, during the King's Cup steeplechase in Pastree, England, one horse named Tipperary Tim proved that persistence and dumb luck can beat skill, teamwork, and basic coordination. Mid-race, his jockey fell off after the first jump, leaving Tim to run riderless. Normally, that's the end. But not this time. Every other horse crashed, tripped, or quit by the final stretch. Alone, mud-covered, and entirely unsupervised, Tipperary Tim galloped across the finish line, the only horse still standing. The crowd erupted. The official rulebook had no idea what to do, so they just declared him the winner. It was the first, and possibly only, championship ever won by someone who technically didn't participate. The press called it the victory of chaos, while bookmakers called it bankruptcy. The odds for Tim had been 100 to 1, meaning one lucky bettor made a fortune off a horse that literally didn't need a human to win. It remains one of the purest lessons in sports history. Sometimes success is just about staying upright while everyone else wipes out. 15. The tennis match that lasted 3 days, 2010. At Wimbledon, 2010, American John Isner and Frenchman Nicolas Mahut played what can only be described as the world's longest test of stubbornness. Their first-round match lasted 11 hours and 5 minutes, stretched over 3 days, because neither player could win by the required 2-game margin. The final score looked like a phone number: 6-4, 3-6, 6-7, 7-6, 70-68. The scoreboard literally broke at 47-47 because it wasn't programmed for that level of insanity. Fans aged visibly during the match. Commentators ran out of words. Even the ball boys were begging for mercy. When it finally ended, both men looked less like athletes and more like survivors of a tennis-themed apocalypse. Wimbledon responded by changing the rules to prevent such marathon matches from ever happening again. The entire ordeal became a global symbol of endurance, or maybe proof that neither man understood the concept of go home. Either way, it's the only sporting event where the grass on the court retired before the players did. 16. The ski jump that wasn't supposed to happen, 1988, meet Eddie the Eagle Edwards, the man who turned failure into Olympic folklore. In 1988, he became Great Britain's first Olympic ski jumper, despite being nearly blind without his thick glasses and weighing about 40 pounds more than his competitors. His training budget? A few bucks and sheer lunacy. Eddie's jumps were short, his form terrible, and his landings looked like physics experiments gone wrong. But the crowd loved him. He didn't win a medal, not even close, but he became an instant legend for simply trying. The media turned him into a folk hero, the embodiment of "it's not about winning." The International Olympic Committee, however, disagreed and promptly changed the qualification rules to prevent unqualified amateurs from competing again, an unofficial Eddie rule. The man jumped once, fell hard, and accidentally made sports less fun for everyone else. Still, Eddie's story proved something powerful. You can fail spectacularly and still land in the history books, even if you land face first. 17. The soccer team that scored on itself to win, 1994. In 1994, during a Caribbean Cup qualifying match, Barbados faced Grenada, and the rulebook imploded. A bizarre tournament regulation stated that if a game went into extra time, the winning golden goal would count as 2 goals. Barbados needed to win by 2 to advance, so when they were leading 2-1 with minutes left, they made a genius stupid decision. They scored an own goal to tie the game and force extra time. Grenada, realizing what was happening, tried to score an own goal themselves to avoid the trap. Chaos followed. Players were defending both goals, referees were screaming, and fans had no idea what sport they were watching anymore. Barbados eventually scored the golden goal in overtime, worth 2 points, and won 4-2. FIFA immediately changed the rules afterward, probably while asking themselves, who wrote this nonsense? It remains the only time in history where deliberately scoring against yourself was the smartest move on the field. 18. The NHL Fog Bowl, 1975. During the 1975 Stanley Cup semifinals, the Buffalo Sabres hosted the Philadelphia Flyers in a game that looked more like a horror movie than hockey. Unseasonably warm weather mixed with the ice, and soon a thick fog filled the entire arena. Players could barely see the puck. Goalie masks dripped with condensation. Referees kept stopping play so rink attendants could skate around waving towels in the air to clear visibility. Basically, human windshield wipers on ice. At one point, a live bat even swooped out of the rafters, forcing players to duck mid-game. Broadcasters dubbed it the Fog Bowl, and somehow the Sabres still won 5-4, in overtime, guided mostly by instinct and guesswork. It was hockey's most atmospheric disaster, part sport, part weather report. Afterward, the NHL officially mandated indoor climate control for playoff games, because apparently, see the puck had to be written down as an official rule. 19. The gymnast who landed on one leg, 1996. In the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, gymnast Kerri Strug gave the world one of the most painful, inspiring, and completely insane championship moments ever. During the final vault, she injured her ankle badly on her first attempt, a sprain so severe she could barely walk. But with the gold medal on the line, her coach, Bela Karolyi, told her she had to go again. Limping down the runway, she launched herself into the air, nailed the vault, and landed perfectly, on one foot, before collapsing in agony. The U.S. won gold, and Strug became a national hero carried off the mat like a wounded warrior. What most people forget is that the U.S. had already secured victory before her final jump. She didn't need to do it at all. Still, it became one of the most iconic moments in Olympic history, the day pain met pride, and neither backed down. 20. The baseball player who forgot to touch home plate, 1976. In 1976, during a Major League Baseball game between the Cubs and the Pirates, outfielder John the Hammer Milner hit a walk-off home run, or so he thought. The crowd erupted, teammates rushed the field, and Milner strutted around the bases like he'd just solved baseball itself. But in the chaos of celebration, he forgot one tiny detail, actually touching home plate. The opposing team noticed and appealed. The umpire, stone-faced and probably dying inside, ruled Milner out. The win was nullified. The fans booed for 10 solid minutes while Milner stared at the ground like it had betrayed him personally. It became a coaching manual for what not to do, the ultimate example of celebrating too early. From that day on, every little leaguer in America heard the same advice from every coach in history. You didn't hit a homer till you touched the plate, genius. 21. The cyclist who won and got arrested, 1904. At the 1904 Olympic cycling event in St. Louis, America's early sports spirit was alive and, well, criminal. The 25-mile race ended with American cyclist Frederick Loers crossing the finish line first, except he hadn't actually cycled the full distance. Halfway through, exhausted, he'd hitched a ride in a passing car for 11 miles, waved to fans like a hero, then hopped back on his bike near the end. The crowd went wild, photographers swarmed, and even the U.S. president's daughter congratulated him before officials realized he'd basically Ubered his way to gold. When caught, Loers claimed it was just a joke. The Olympic Committee didn't find it funny and banned him on the spot. Miraculously, he was reinstated the following year, proving that in early sports history, you could cheat outrageously and still get invited back. Honestly, it's impressive he didn't also claim surge pricing. 22. The football game. That ended in a blizzard, 1985. The 1985 NFL playoff game between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears wasn't just cold, it was apocalyptic. Temperatures dropped below zero, wind gusts hit 40 miles, and visibility was so bad that announcers couldn't see the ball. Helmets iced over, players' breath froze mid-air, and referees had to thaw their whistles on the sidelines. The field looked like a snow globe mid-earthquake. Fans, wrapped in sleeping bags and pure stubbornness, stayed the entire game chanting, "This is football." The Bears crushed the Packers 21-0, but nobody remembers the score, only the frostbite. Afterward, one lineman said, "I couldn't feel my fingers until Tuesday." The game entered NFL folklore as the Ice Bowl II, a sequel nobody wanted but everyone survived by accident. It became proof that football isn't just about toughness. It's about willingly suffering in weather conditions that make Penguins quit. 23. The team that celebrated the wrong championship, 2002. In 2002, a South Korean soccer club accidentally celebrated someone else's victory. After a long season, Suwon Samsung Blue Wings believed they'd clinched the national title based on point totals. Confetti flew, champagne popped, players wept tears of joy. Unfortunately, officials discovered a clerical error in the league's calculations. They were actually second. The real champions, Seongnam Ilhwa Chunma, were celebrating in total confusion several miles away while watching TV coverage of their rivals' premature parade. The embarrassment was cosmic. The league had to publicly revoke the trophy the next day in a ceremony so awkward it could have melted steel. To this day, Suwon fans call it the Phantom Victory. It remains the only known instance where an entire city partied for a title they didn't win. Moral of the story: never trust the math guy until the champagne is certified. Champions rise, trophies fall, and logic takes a nap. Which moment deserves the crown for dumbest victory ever?